Hello, Carnies, and welcome to Sideshow.
Yep, I'm Joe.
I'm Jacques, and this is an almost all-exclusive Joe Sideshow.
Oh, man.
Where Joe will be...
Wait, where are you going?
Where Joe will be driving the ship. It's, so... Obviously, it's all Patriot talk all the time. So, Joe, who was your favorite 7th-round draft pick for the Carolina Panthers in the last 10 years?
Wink Martindale?
There we are talking games.
Yeah, and specifically home versions of game shows. I have a kind of a sad... Like, you thought my video game collection that you're imagining is sad. Imagine a home game, board game collection of game show home games.
So at the end of every game show where you hear that the contestants take home a home version of the game, Joe has each and every one of them and we will be detailing his favorite ones, his least favorite ones, and probably fun stories about the creation and the failures of some and the success of others. What's your favorite?
Well, I have the advantage of looking over Jacques' shoulder and seeing that I have a lot to choose from. My favorite, I don't know, I have an affinity for, it's a toss-up between, I have the Family Feud board games. I have 2 editions. I have the 4th edition, the new 4th edition, and the new 7th edition of the Family Feud home games. Those are from the 4th edition, I'm thinking, the 1st edition must have been in 1976 because that's when Family Feud debuted with Richard Dawson back on ABC television. Or was it CBS? Oh, I'm bad at this. So I think it's ABC.
Richard Dawson, first of all, this is a sideshow for another time, favorite game show host. But that guy, he was just awesome.
Yeah.
Just absolutely a lecherous peg, chain smoking while hosting the feud.
But in all sincerity, he really was like the most progressive game show host. Like he was all about like women's rights, and he would always challenge whenever like a husband went on the game show. When they went on the Family Feud, and there was like a sexist kind of questions, like name your wife's favorite appliance,
Right.
And he would be like, this is a really disgusting question. Like we should never have a question like this ever again.
And he didn't care if the contestant was an old, white woman, big, small, medium, black, Asian. He kissed each and every one of them with as much gusto as the next.
Right, and you know what? And back then in the 70s, where in that sort of 60s free love kind of vibe, like that, honestly, it was like no big deal to. I mean, there were women that you could sort of tell didn't want to be kissed by a complete and total stranger. What's funny about that is that he actually met his wife as a contestant on Family Feud.
I did not know that.
You did, nor should you know that. Only I know that. I forget what her name was, but it's on there. It's actually, I think, on YouTube. Like if you look up, Family Feud, Richard Dawson's wife contestant, you'll see the episode where her and her family were like on for a couple of episodes, and he's talking sweet to her.
I don't think this is a toughie. Something that builds your appetite, Richard.
Well, making love?
Mm-hmm. Boy, that's why I haven't been able to eat lately. What? Yeah.
And eventually you she hooks up with him, and they have children, and they live happily for decades,
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so, dreams do come true.
So bring it back to the board game.
Sorry, so Family Feud, I have 2 versions of Family Feud home games. They come with these little cardboard boards with these plastic slats that you can just grab one. Go ahead and grab one. Take it out of its original packaging. He's grabbing the 4th edition. So the 4th edition must be copyright 1980 since it's the 4th year. He's handing me the box. I'll tweet out pictures of this too. But yeah, there's like plastic pieces. There's like a plastic board that the cardboard front that looks like the classic Family Feud board goes on top of, and then there's like little slats that you pull out to the sides that reveal the answers. There are sheets on there that you're never really going to be able to decipher just by looking at them, but they have like questions at the top where you as the host would ask the question. So you needed like a host, and then you had like at least 2 other players to play against each other. But one person always had to be the host, and I always wanted to be the host. I wanted to be a game show host when I was a young man because I had no friends, and I still have no friends. And I'm not a good speaker, as you can tell by this podcast, but I still wanted to be a game show host, and I would always be the game show host whenever I would have friends and enforce friends at gunpoint, and I got a gun somehow, to play these games when I was a kid. Jacques, can you read one of the questions at the top? Like it says like round 1. I don't know if you can read it.
Name something you use with lemons.
Something you use with lemons. I'm going to say something you use with lemons. Oh, Jesus. Sugar? Is one of the answers sugar? No, for Christ's sake. I'm bad at this. I'm going to read it. Question number 3. Name something for which people take out a loan.
A house.
That's the number 2 answer. 37 people.
A car.
Number 1 answer. 53 people. So you're good at
Prostitute.
That's unfortunately didn't make our survey. Not that it's a wrong answer. It just didn't make our survey. You need at least 2 people to agree with you.
I would love to we should bust this open and play it because I wonder how dated some of the answers are.
Yeah, right. Like, yeah. What's your? I think did I say that? Like, what's your favorite appliance? Yeah.
Right. What? No. What's your wife's favorite appliance?
Right.
Was one of the ones.
Oh yeah, I'm joking about that. But there were like housewifey kind of questions that were just commonplace. But say what you will about Richard Dawson, rest in peace. And I am going to be saying rest in peace a lot during this episode, because I think a lot of the game show hosts that have hosted these shows have since gone. Why don't you take off the top one there? So now Jacques is going over to my next game. This is my coveted 1986 Milton Bradley The Price is Right home game. I got this, not this one in my hand. I had to rebuy it, but I did get this when I was 11 years old. No, I'm sorry, 10 years old. And the reason I got it, this is how autistic I am, or Asperger's-y I am. Ages what to adult?
Wow, 10 to adult.
I didn't buy it at age 9 because I wasn't 10 years old.
Wow.
And I wanted to follow the rules. That's how much of a shithead I was and still am. But this is it's kind of a fun game. I mean, the thing that I find charming about these board games, and board games in general, is that they're tactile. Although, there's feelies in there. There's little pieces and stuff. There's things you have to set up, and there's something real about it. It's
right.
I mean, video games, I love
it's
video games.
Like reading a book versus reading a blog type
exactly.
thing. You can actually put your hands on it.
Yeah, I mean that's and then I think that's why people like collecting records and stuff. They can sort of feel it. They have something that's
tangible.
Tangible. That's the word I was looking for. Tangible. So the Price is Right home game from 1986 has 10 pricing games. It has Switcheroo, Squeeze Play, Secret X. No, it's not your Facebook profile. Safecracker.
See, Secret X could be. I see what you've done there.
I suck. Lucky Sevens again.
The Price is Right. It's got to be like. Honestly, we should bust it out and play it because we're talking. This is a 30-plus-year-old game.
It's from '86. Yeah. So like these prices. I mean, how much do you think 1 pound of butter goes for?
1 pound of butter?
Yes.
65 cents.
No. They're in the dollar something.
Oh, the dollar.
range.
Okay.
Yeah, so they're not crazy. They're not just giving butter away.
Butter doesn't just grow on trees.
I can't believe it's not 60. It's like
$1.
Right. It was,
I bet $1.
You're right. $1, Bob. But so a little thing about Price is Right. So Price is Right is in its 45th season on CBS television. It just got renewed for 3 more seasons. Price is Right is one of those games that will never get old ever.
And it's funny because they shoot down in CBS, and it's one of those things where you can't, like when you were on your game show and you had to audition, all that stuff. Here you just have to get out in line and people line up.
Right. Well, actually, there is an auditioning process
for The Price is Right.
Yeah.
They used to just go down the line and talk to people outside in the line that morning.
I actually have a Price is Right book somewhere in that pile over there. It was written by Roger Dobkowitz, a former executive producer, like for 30 plus years of The Price is Right. He wrote like a behind the scenes of like how people got on and like favorite stories and all that stuff. But basically, the audition process for The Price is Right. Yeah, you get there super early in the morning. You get your sticker or ticket that says, "Well, here's your place in line." and then you come back later when they actually line up, and then they bring you it's like a cattle call. They bring you out like 4 at a time or whatever, and then you stand in front of a table of producers, and the contestants are asked, "What's your name? Why are you here? Why do you love The Price is Right? What are you hoping to get today?" or something like that. And then in 10 seconds, you're auditioning for the producers.
Right.
And then they say, "Oh, hey, thanks." And then you go back in line, and they move in the next group of 4 people. And then from that, they bring on their contestants.
Right. But it wasn't like when you went on and they were touring around the country, pre-auditioning people like they do with Family Feud and stuff like that, where they go city to city and they hold kind of local and regional auditions and stuff.
Right.
It's just that day in line.
Yeah, the whole premise was for The Price is Right was audience participation, which was kind of like novel at the time, where you would have it basically create this sort of air of spontaneity, like anybody could go on The Price is Right and win a car that day just by sitting in the audience.
And again, one of the best things as a kid, and one of the reasons why the show has worked so well. I mean, you would have grandma watching the show, but it was such a staple when you missed school, when you were a kid and you were homesick. Watching The Price is Right was a big part of the day because it went on before the Gilligan reruns and all the I Dream of Jeannie reruns. So the early part of your morning, I mean, this is pre the View and the chit chat shows and stuff like that, the Ellens and stuff. I mean, it was all game shows up until the afternoon news and then soap operas and stuff like that. But that's why everybody in our generation, they would watch the show, and then when you were at your grandmother's house, you could talk about having seen this costume or that costume. Because remember, that was a big thing. People used to dress up. Oh,
that was you're mixing up. But Let's Make a Deal.
Let's Make a Deal. That's right. But you would have so many wingnuts like losing their shit when they got called down.
Oh,
on
yeah.
Price is Right. Just absolutely losing their shit.
Yeah. No, it's a fantastic premise and fantastic format. They met up with a little bit of controversy last year when they had I think one of their first, or seldom do they have wheelchair-bound contestants. So they had a wheelchair-bound contestant. Some people call them handicap. I call them handy-capable. So they had this woman in a wheelchair. She went into contestants' row, which is the place in front where they sit and they bid on like whatever they're hawking at the beginning. And then you have to guess within, you have to be closest without going over to the price. And then she went up and has to play a pricing game, which is like I'm explaining The Price is Right to America. So anyways, so she goes up and goes for her pricing game. And what's the prize for the pricing game? A treadmill.
Wow.
And this is like, it's funny because they have the prices laid out in advance when they're putting together the show, and they have the contestants laid out in advance, but they never know when the contestants is, gonna get chosen.
Right.
Like they're gonna, maybe they should have plotted it out a little bit better. It's like, all right, let's give away the treadmill first, and then bring on the wheelchair person. But yeah, she won a wheelchair, and she just laughed it off. It was like a big kind of viral thing for a little while, but it's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Please go to YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Oh, that is epic.
And what's great about The Price is Right in these game shows kind of embrace YouTube. Even Drew Carey says, "Oh, that's a YouTube moment. Like this is going on YouTube." So he's constantly referring YouTube. But yeah, no, The Price is Right is still going strong. I watched it the other day.
Joe, where's the strangest place you've made whoopee?
In the butt. That's a real. That was a real answer.
Which brings us to the next board game, the new Newlywed Game.
Not the old Oldie game.
But that, I think, is that like the quintessential sitcom blooper moment? That question?
Yeah, they go to, that was when Bob Eubanks hosted the Newlywed Game back in the 70s and 80s. Yeah, that's, before YouTube, it was so almost like urban legend. Like, did that really happen? And yes, it did. Yeah, it was in the butt. In the butt was the answer.
Girls, tell me where specifically is the weirdest place that you personally, girls, have ever gotten the urge to make whoopee?
In the...
No. It's still there. No, what I'm talking about is the weirdest location, the weirdest place.
Location?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Give me an answer, please. He said it was in the car, on the freeway.
But yeah, you could probably see that on YouTube. But I mean, look at what pristine condition this.
Seriously.
Because I haven't used it, and you can see that it comes with cards.
I mean, it comes with 4 pencils that are completely, like
barely used. I don't know how to play the game. I don't have any desire to play the game. I just saw it as a sort of a kitschy thing that I saw in a Goodwill.
Have they rebooted this?
A Newlywed Game, yeah. The recent one on Game Show Network from years ago had like Carney Wilson as a host once, and then I forget who took over for her. But then they brought in like celebrities, and they started bringing on gay couples. Like I know that George Takei and his husband Brad went on, and they won their game of Newlywed Game years ago for charity. But yeah, I mean they brought it back. I don't know if it's still on now. I think it's since went off the air. But there's such a resurgence in game shows now.
So I did not know. I've known there was a game show network, but over the last few years, there's been how many game show networks?
There's only 2.
But how many have come and gone or changed?
It really only in America, really only just one Game Show Network or GSN. They ran like all older game shows. When they started out in the 90s, their bread and butter were the old Mark Goodson, Bill Todman productions, those old like Price is Rights and Family Feuds and match games. And now they still rerun some match games, but since then, Fremantle Media has bought all of the rights to all of the Mark Goodson, Bill Todman productions from the 70s and 80s. And also, they also bought the rights to Press Your Luck as well. So like Fremantle is like they're like the Disney of game shows now. And they started a network called Buzzer, Buzzr. And it's an over-the-air network where you don't need cable. You can watch with an antenna. So like your grandma who doesn't have cable and has that old tube TV with a digital converter can still watch her game shows. And they rerun like Match Game. They rerun Password Plus, Super Password. They don't have the Pyramid Games. I think that's under some other license. They don't run the Family. They run Family Feud constantly with Richard Dawson and Ray Combs, both rest in peace. But when GSN stopped running reruns and started doing original programming, that's when Buzzer came in to fill in the gap for the old folks like me who were nostalgic for the 80s and 70s game shows of yesteryear. And I'm glad that they came along.
So it's funny. I've sold a bunch of TV shows over like the last decade.
Sell out.
And it's honestly how many times I meet with the development person. There's one person, my friend Rhoda, who I deal with, who I think she probably has like 50 dozen shows on TV now. The most prolific show seller ever. And how many times I would get notes. It's like, oh, I just came out of this meeting. This place is looking for a game show. That place is looking for a game show, because you think over the past 20 years, some of the biggest shows that have come out of nowhere that have either sustained, it depends if you count like the reality challenges shows, like, The Amazing Race, which is on season
200.
TV was invented in 1938.
Big Brother's like a huge thing.
Big Brother and stuff. But you have Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? It was that runaway, phenomenal, huge success in prime time.
Yes. But
it's still on in syndication every day today.
And it's actually, it's still on not only in syndication, but it's on ABC. It's hosted by the host of The Bachelor. So like ABC still owns the rights.
Still owns the rights to that. And then of course you still have your show, which we have right there. I'm holding.
He says your show.
Well, Joe was on Wheel of Fortune, as we've talked about on the regular show.
Oh, stop! You're embarrassing me.
And he absolutely killed it that day. It was.
Please go on.
Now let's see. What do you come up with? We need 3 more consonants, 1 more vowel.
B.
1.
P.
2.
H.
And a vowel.
A.
All right. Let's see. Anything? Well, I wouldn't bet against this guy. It's a tough puzzle, no doubt, and a lot of blank spaces. But it's a phrase. You have 10 seconds to try to work it out. Good luck.
I would be delighted.
I figured. I had faith in you.
And I'm holding the box. Is this part of your lovely contestant parting prizes?
Yeah, I went back into 1986. That's when I taped the episode. So I was on Wheel of Fortune. Oh, this is sealed. Oh, my
sealed.
God.
Yeah, that's why I asked if it was part of the contestant
No,
prizes.
I bought this at a Goodwill, and it was like, yeah, it was, oh, wow, a sealed one. I think I had, maybe I still do.
You do. You have several different incarnations of Wheel of Fortune over there.
I need to go to a hospital. But no, this wasn't. They don't give you board games as parting gifts anymore. They don't care. Oh,
Bastards.
But no, Wheel of Fortune, yeah, another game show that it actually started in the 70s. Chuck Woolery was the original host of the NBC version of Wheel of Fortune. It's essentially the same game, but with a much more... So you went from one crazy Republican in Chuck Woolery to a less crazy Republican in Pat Sajak.
I can't believe rich old white guys would be Republicans.
Yeah.
Well, now, is Chuck Woolery, was he the CIA hitman?
No, that was Chuck Barris.
Chuck Barris,
He hosted
right.
The Gong Show.
Right.
That was bullshit, by the way. But yeah, that's
Or was it?
right. Yeah, Confessions of a Madman, which was produced by George Clooney, which was a very good movie.
It's a great movie.
Sam Rockwell played Chuck Barris in that, and he does an excellent job.
And Chuck Barris, up until his
Rest in peace.
Up until his dying day, had said, because the CIA has said no, he was never a member of the CIA. Of course, we don't have assassins, and he's always said, yeah, the CIA is going to acknowledge.
Right. Who are you going to believe?
Me or your own lying eye? But he did. That was always his thing. It's like, well, and he would always, and you could never tell if he was joking. Well, I'm putting it out there just in case I die of a mysterious death.
Yeah.
You know why they're trying to shut me up. And then to the point where the CIA had to issue a statement on it saying, of course, he was never part of the CIA. Of course, we don't have these hit squads. And Chuck Barris's reply was,
Or so the CIA would have you believe.
the password is
Fun. So now he just handed me a very old version of the password, one of two password games that I have. This is the new 11th edition from Milton Bradley Company. I don't have a date on this, but it's 1970. Password, fantastic game show. I don't understand. They tried to bring this back recently with $1 Million Password, and by recently I mean within the last 5 years. It was a good, it's a fantastic game. If you don't know what password is, shame on you. But, there would be a word that the one giver would have to get the receiver to say by giving them one word clues. Without saying any part of the word that was the target word. I'm not doing a very good job. I should probably watch more Password, and that way I can get more of a command on the English fucking language. But Password was a fantastic game. I hope I'd like to see them bring it back. It seems like word games don't do. I mean, the biggest word game right now is Wheel of Fortune, which is barely a word game. But they used to have
Pyramid.
Yeah, that's true. Pyramid, yeah. But it's not, yeah, I guess that is, yeah. You're right. Why don't I shut up?
And if you want to, Friends, the TV show Friends was great.
Yeah, right.
Yes, like it needs me to say it was great.
Right, they get ringing endorsements 17 years later.
But it was management's favorite show. And when she moved in, she watched it all the time, bought the box sets. The episode of Friends when Joey is on the pyramid, hands down my favorite episode of Friends ever. It probably in my top 10 favorite episodes of TV period is when Joey was on Pyramid and he was like the celebrity guest. And
what was the category?
Well, one of them is like
things.
White
things.
Yeah, things that are white, and he's like, it's in your fridge, a ghost,
right?
and then after they take a break, and he's like, wow, those are really hard questions. I mean, what would a ghost be doing in my fridge? But before I put this episode Sideshow and any more Jeopardy, let's move on to the next day. Yeah, that's bad.
I lost on Jeopardy. I would lose on Jeopardy, and I've been trying to get my management to audition for Jeopardy because she's pretty smart.
She married you. How smart can she be?
Oh my God, I hate myself. So I'm holding in my hand the Jeopardy 10th edition. From
I was trying to find the copyright date. The box indicates that it
1972. This is from the Art Fleming days.
Wait, should you be putting out over the interwebs that you have a board game from 1972 that might have a retail value of
$0.10?
Seriously, that box. The box is older than you.
Yeah. There's so many. They pump these out. This is before apps. This is before computers. If you wanted to experience the game show experience in your own home, you needed to have these board games, and they would pump them out, like the more popular ones. They would pump out every year, like the 7th edition, the 8th edition, the 20th edition.
So these are just board games that are TV shows. That these are the home version of these games,
Right.
And so, just looking at the wall over here, yes, he has a wall of games. You're talking, you got about a good almost dozen different shows,
Right.
the home games of them. Are there any home games
board games?
Board games that then became shows?
Yes, there were a couple of ones. Trivial Pursuit being one of them. They tried that in the 90s. That didn't go well. They also did it with Monopoly.
Who took a gamble on Monopoly being a TV show?
Merv Griffin.
Because those, they must have
I
been really abridged rules.
Peter Tamarkin was the original pilot host of the Monopoly game show. Peter Tamarkin was the host of Pressure Luck. The pilot for Monopoly was, I think, 1990. The set was like this huge Monopoly board that lit up, and then they would have 3 contestants, and the 3 contestants would have to answer sort of like fill-in-the-blank questions or general knowledge questions or whatever to move their piece along and to get properties and all that. But the pilot episode is particularly odd, not because of Peter Tamarkin, but because of Mr. Pennybags, which is the Monopoly guy's name. He was represented by a little person that moved along the board, that didn't talk. That it was a little person dressed as Mr. Pennybags.
That's
awful. It is awful, and
there's a very, very thin line between awful and awesome.
And this is teetering on. I don't know if it ever crosses to awesome, because Peter Tamarkin did not like the concept. He was like, "This is insulting," he went on to say afterwards, he particularly disliked the Mr. Pennybags gimmick with the little person because he felt that they were literally treating him like an object, but he wasn't allowed to talk or interact with this little person. He's like, "There's a little person running around our board, and I'm not allowed to talk to this person or address this person like a human being." Like, that was part of the format. But yeah, so that got picked up, but it didn't do well. And then I don't know, another board game that became a game show. I can't think of any others that like spring to mind, but more recently, we have the new app 2 game show called Candy Crush.
Oh, right.
With Mario Lopez.
And absolutely insane that Candy Crush.
Right. So like the game that you play on the toilet is now a game that you're going to watch other people play for half an hour. And the format is odd because they interact with this giant wall video wall. If you've ever seen Candy Crush, it's kind of like a Tetris game where you have to match 3. They have that in video format, but they interact with it kind of like a rock wall. I haven't seen the show myself, but I've seen reviews, and it's, I don't know, it's not good. It's probably not going to last. It's probably not going to be hip with the kids.
But it is funny to think, first, looking at your pile of games, the fact that you have a Jeopardy board game that is 45 years old, right here, and the show's still on every single day.
Yeah.
That it's still huge. And Newlywed Game has come back, Family Feud, again, Price is Right. Here are all these board games that you've had that are over 30 years old, that the shows are still on. And it's funny because, game shows in prime time still pop up. And it's funny. So, I give Joe a hard time, and a lot of people do, about like his absolute love of game shows. And I will, I'll be watching a Bruins game and text him on a Thursday night at 10 o'clock. It's like, "Hey, did you just see that?" And he's like, "No, I'm watching the match game from like the 70s on these games," which is great. But here's the funny thing. You have all these games that you just said, like, Jeopardy, here's a board game that's been on TV for 40 years that now is an app. Yeah. It's a popular app. All these games haven't gone away. Password hasn't gone away.
Password has gone away.
No. I'm talking as I guarantee there's an app out there. And
right.
And then you have different versions of that they might not call, that they've incorporated into different things. You still have the daytime Wheel of Fortune, and and Price is Right are still as popular now as they were ever. But then you also have the primetime shows that keep popping up. You have 2 dedicated game show networks. So it's not
Match Game was brought back recently. And it's fantastic. Match Game with Alec Baldwin is a fantastic game show that you're not watching.
But I'm watching. But it's fantastic. It's not this niche subculture, little obscure thing. I mean, there's probably as many refurbished game shows or new game shows or game shows in prime time than there are cop shows or hospital shows or superhero shows on Netflix.
At least more recently, yeah. But I'm glad to see that there's like a resurgence and sort of again, it's a nostalgia grab because they're bringing back game shows like Match Game, Pyramid, Gong Show. Gong Show is an odd one. That's produced by Will Arnett and hosted by Tommy Maitland. Who's Tommy Maitland?
Who is Tommy Maitland?
The world may never know.
No, they know.
All right, it's Mike Myers in character. That's the most bizarre thing. The return to television for Mike Myers is a fucking character in prosthetics. Like, and if you look in the credits, executive producer Tommy Maitland.
Right,
like Pee Wee Herman.
He's taking this to the whole, to
the nth level,
which is bizarre, but at the same time, absolute. And it is. It's akin to the people like Pee Wee and who's the other guy who I'm thinking of? Jerry Lawler.
Andy Kaufman.
And Andy Kaufman when he would go into his characters.
Tony Clifton.
Tony Clifton. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And till his dying day, if he is dead,
right?
Always denied. Completely disavowed himself.
That's another
Tony
Sideshow.
Clifton.
Andy Kaufman.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up this Sideshow.
Wake up,
Joe is going to take a picture. Again, a shout out to our friend Robert who let us come over and go through his man cave, and you had that great pan of all his arcade games and stuff like that.
I'll do the same with my shit.
With his, but it is really cool that you have board games here that are pushing 50 years old. And for the few listeners out there, our friends from Japan, let's say, or our friends from France, if there are any like great board games that have become shows that you guys know, Facebook or tweet Joe and let him know so we can look them up and check them out and bring them up, because we are periodically on Sideshow going to look. If I get to rant about the Patriots nonstop on Carnival personnel, then Joe has every right to go off and linger all things board games, TV show game shows, gaming game shows, and everything in between.
But yeah, so check us out on Facebook at Carnival Podcast. You know where we are because you literally know us. Like we're not broadcasting to any strangers out there.
No, actually, it's fun because we've had some people who are friends of friends, like that we've had on that we've talked about. And we appreciate all the friends who have sent out email blasts to their friends who have shared us on Facebook, because it's nice to know that, every couple weeks there's a couple more people who we don't know, sending us messages and stuff like that. And it justifies me having to look at Joe for a couple hours.
And smell me. Oh my God. Thank God there's no such thing as smell-o-vision.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So that's that. And, Jacques, don't forget to...
You don't get to come back tomorrow. You don't even get a lousy copy of our home game. You're a complete loser.